$5 trillion इकोनॉमी, इसका सपना संजोया है.
From a $3 trillion economy, India will grow to become a $40 trillion economy by 2047.
So this is definitely a matter of great pride that by 2024, we will become a $5 trillion economy. By 2047, we will become a developed nation and will command an economy of $40 trillion. This is definitely a very proud moment for all the Indians and we should celebrate. But we should not lose sight of the fact that we have to analyze the other side of the equation also. Consider, for example, a very important matrix which is called as GDP per capita. We keep on speaking about GDP, but we rarely ever speak about GDP per capita, which indicates the average wealth that is held by an Indian. Now, if you look at this figure, these studies tell us, as per the current standards, that India is ranked 158th out of 211 countries in GDP per capita terms. Now, this data comes from IMF. On top of this, if you Google that how much money you need to make in order to be top 10% rich in India, then the numbers are very dismal, that you only require an income of 25,000 per month and an income of 1.35 lakhs per month in order to be in top 1% rich in India. So all these are very dismal figures. So which side of the story should you believe in? Should you believe that India is a massively rich country, or should you believe that India is a poor country? Well, you should believe both the sides of the story. There is absolutely no doubt that massive wealth is going to get created in India. But a more pertinent question for you is that will you be able to capture that wealth? On this video, I am going to discuss 8 simple steps through which you will stand a much better chance of capturing this new wealth that is being generated in India. Very humble request that if you like this macroeconomic, fundamental, business analysis put together, please consider supporting these type of videos. Just a simple like from your side will allow more people to truly become rich. I know that some of you would not have pressed the like button, so please press the like button and we will get the video started. So let me jump right in that in order to capture the new wealth that is being generated in India, the first thing that rich are going to do is that they are going to capture something called as assets. So your first step to becoming rich is to own assets. So Naval Ravikant has explained this beautifully. So let me play that clip and then let me tell you what assets and liabilities are.
First of all, the first thing if you're going to make money is that you're not going to get rich renting out your time. Even lawyers and doctors who are charging $300, $400, $500 an hour, they're not getting rich because their lifestyle is slowly ramping up along with their income, and they're not saving enough. They just don't have that ability to retire. So the first thing you have to do is you have to own a piece of a business. You need to have equity, either as an owner, an investor, shareholder, or a brand that you're building that accrues to you to gain your financial freedom.
So just to add to Naval Ravikant's viewpoint, an asset or a definition of asset can be understood very cleanly by understanding what Robert Kiyosaki has said about it. So basically, Robert Kiyosaki says that an asset is something that puts money into your pocket. For example, if you are owning a house and if you rent it out, you are giving it to someone, then at the end of the month, you will be getting some rental income out of it, and that becomes an asset for you. Why? Because that house is putting money into your pocket. And on the flip side, if let's say you're owning a car and if you're just using it for personal use, and in that respect, probably you will have to undertake some maintenance fee, you will have to do some servicing, vagera, vagera. So from that perspective, a car could become a liability. Please notice the word could. Now, things like a house could be both an asset and a liability. If you are someone who is using a fleet of Uber cars and are doing some kind of business by owning a lot of vehicles, then probably it could be an asset, a car could be an asset, or it could be a liability, depending on the use. But I hope this definition of asset versus liability is clear. Now comes the natural question that I'm very early in my career. I'm in my 20s, 25, 30, and I do not have too many assets. So why this point matters to me? Well, it matters to you a lot because we forget some of the assets that all of us have. For example, time is one such commodity that all of us have, irrespective of how much money you have in the bank. So time is a critical asset. It could be your skills that you're upskilling yourself. So skill become a very important asset. Money, of course, is a massive asset. If you have money, then you can use that money to make more money. An additional point that you need to understand is that assets are interconvertible. So what is the meaning of this interconvertibility? So let me just quickly paint this out for you. So for example, if you own a lot of time, then what you can do is that you can upskill yourself. and through that you can make a lot of money. And if you have a lot of money, then probably you can use it to buy more time. For example, you can hire more people who can help you out, or you can avail better healthcare, which again becomes an asset. If you have more time, you can again buy more opportunities from it. Similarly, with money, you can buy more opportunities. Opportunities could be simply studying abroad. For example, it could be very expensive to study abroad, and you might miss those opportunities in case you do not have money. The important point that I want to highlight here is that all these different assets are interconvertible, that you can convert time into money, you can convert money into time, opportunities into time, opportunities into money. So that's the piece of thought process that you should first and foremost develop. It is very critical, becoming rich thought process, and this is literally where the story starts. The second key step to become rich in New India is that you must grow your active income stream. Now, what is the meaning of active income stream? For example, in the previous point, I explained that you should own assets. Now, many of you might be imagining, we have to own a house, we have to own a lot of stocks, we have to own a lot of FDs or bonds, vagera. That is true, but that is only partially true. Whenever we are starting, maybe in our teens or in 20s or in mid 20s, then what might happen is that our first job or our initial set of jobs are going to define our wealth building journey. So it is critical that you improve upon your active income stream. What is the meaning of active income stream? It's very simple, that you are going to office, that is something that pays your bills. After every month, you're receiving a salary. So what are you typically doing there? You are actually investing your time from, let's say, 9 a.m. in the morning to 6 p.m. in the evening. And in exchange for investing that time in a company, you are getting some money at the end of the month. Almost all of us start our journey there. If you're from a middle class, even upper middle class, then the chances are that you are primarily dependent on your active income. There is nothing wrong. Yes, from point one, develop that rich thought process, no problem there. You must always have that long-term ambition. But your wealth journey story starts by cultivating your active income stream. So what is it that you need to do about it, and how you need to think about active income stream in modern India? So let's have a very quick discussion. So point number one here is that there is a lot of competition for jobs in India. This is a fairly well understood point, so I will not belabor that here. You would have often read in newspaper things like, एक सरकारी नौकरी प्यून लेवल पे निकली, and there are 500 PhD applicants applying for such a job. These are actual data points. I'm not making this up. So there is a lot of competition for jobs in India. Now, this is where we stop thinking about things, right? What we actually need to think about, that in order to become rich, you need to think about high-end jobs. Now, what is the meaning of high-end jobs? For example, consider something like management consulting, VC, private equity, investment banking. For example, if you consider the size of the management consulting market in India compared to the US, India's management consulting market is only 3 or 4% that of the US. So as a result, we have almost 25 times fewer jobs. I'm not saying 25%, I'm saying 25 times fewer jobs in management consulting than you will get in the US. So what I'm trying to outline is, and this is point number B, that the number of high paying jobs in India are very few to begin with. And this is one of the reasons why I decided to study abroad. And this is one of the reasons why I initially worked in Singapore. I worked in management consulting because high-end job opportunities in India are very few to begin with. Many people ask me that, what, Akshat, should we go study abroad? Should we try to work abroad? Vagera. See, my perspective on this is absolutely yes. I'm not encouraging you to leave India, because I left India, I worked abroad, I came back to India. Now I'm contributing to the Indian economy. You need to understand the viewpoint that when you are picking up high-end jobs, not only you will make high-end money, you will also develop high-end skills that you can bring back and contribute to our nation's growth story. So please think about it a little bit more holistically, because if you're not able to develop yourself, how will you contribute the most to a nation, right? So just think from that perspective. And from that perspective, my answer is always that, you should pick the best possible job you can get. And statistically speaking, you have much better odds of getting high-end job outside India than within India, because the number of high-end jobs in India are very few to begin with. Now you might say that, okay, active income, you told about going abroad. I don't have that option. I'm in my 30s, 40s. Is there something that I can do to grow my active income? Yes. Negotiate your salary. This is a very important point, that most of us do not negotiate our salary. Even if when we are negotiating our salary, we might get a 5% hike, if at all. Aapne jaake pucha bhi to, and that might not make you happy. So please understand that number one, most people do not get a salary hike because they do not ask for it. This is a statistically proven point again. And number two is that when you're going and negotiating your salary, it is very important to understand that you at least negotiate real inflation. Now, what is the meaning of real inflation? Well, I'll give you a very quick exercise. Guess the price of eggs, guess the price of milk, guess the price of vegetables or your grocery bill before 2020. Now it has been almost 4 years. In 4 years, how much do you think those same things have changed? For example, type out your response below that one egg or milk packet, how much did it used to cost pre-COVID and how much is it costing now? You can clearly see that inflation works very, very differently. Same applies to school fees, same applies to healthcare. All this, I'm telling you, official data will not tell you. Official data will still say, you know what, inflation is just like 4.5%, 5%. But honestly, that does not mean that something that you used to get in 2019 at 100 rupees only cost like 115, 116 now. No, it would have easily gone up by 30, 40%. Do the same exercise. I'm not making this up. So you must negotiate your salary hard. Now comes the natural question that, okay, is there any other way that I can probably get a better pay raise and make more money from my active income? I honestly don't want to depend on negotiating my salary. It's an exercise that I don't enjoy. Well, you have two parts. One is that you become a specialist in your area. For example, if you are coding, then learn all different types of possible coding that you could learn. Figure out areas which are growth areas. For example, these days, there is a lot of work that is going into artificial intelligence, machine learning, cryptocurrencies, blockchain, all this stuff. So if you are able to align your skill sets to these growing areas, then the chances are that you will make more money. So the track on which you are probably on that specialist track. You can make a lot of money by becoming a specialist. No problem there. If you think, yeah, you know what, nahi ho raha, specialist wala is like very, very difficult. Who will do PhD? Who will, keep on working in that same domain for 30, 40 years? Then your goal becomes to create multiple parallel income streams. I'll speak about this point later, but let's move on to point number 3. Now, the third step in order to become rich in India is to understand and optimize your finances. Very recently, you would have heard the news that Shah Rukh Khan's daughter, which is Suhana Khan, that she bought some agricultural land worth 13 crore rupees. Now try to guess the reason as to why she would be doing this. Well, to cut the long story short, to get the benefits of agricultural income, because in India, agricultural income is taxed at 0%. So Suhana Khan, despite her father making a lot of money, and she might be running a lot of ventures, but through this agricultural land, she would be paying 0% taxes. Now, many people erupted out on Twitter that, you know what, this is like completely wrong, this, that. No, this is like 100% legal. I am neither taking side of Suhana Khan, neither I am saying anything against her. All I am simply telling you is that whatever she did is perfectly legal. But through this example, I simply want to communicate the point that rich are very smart in terms of understanding finance. They also understand where to invest, how to invest. For example, many rich people invest via hedge funds. Now, hedge funds is slightly more riskier in nature, but it also gives them better returns. You might have seen that sharks like Anupam Mittal, he invests in a lot of startups. All these are high-end opportunities. Investing in hedge funds, investing in angel funds, being an angel investor yourself, investing in startups. These type of opportunities we might not get as normal retail investors. But what you can do is that you can pick up investing as a skill. Please understand basic economics, basic finance, basic investing. I make so many videos. You can literally watch the entire playlist for free. There is zero charge around it. You can educate yourself about finance. If you want to upskill yourself, I run courses. On top of that, on member community, I relate current news articles, current macro trends to whatever is happening in the market. So that's a more practical way of learning. So these are basic things where you can start your investing journey, tax optimization journey. I am not asking you or encouraging you to become money minded, but understanding money is still very important without being money minded, so to say. Now comes the fourth point of becoming rich in New India, which is to generate parallel income streams. On point number 3, I explained that if you are someone on that specialist path, for example, you're doing a PhD in some area, or you already have a career of 20-25 years, you're very happy with that. Continue on that path, become a go-to expert. You are already a specialist. This is the type of a career trajectory that most people from previous generation used to take. And this was brilliant. There is nothing wrong with this type of a career direction. But now what has happened is that with the changing times, with the usage of more technology, it is becoming easier than ever to create parallel income streams. Let me give you a very simple example. And again, please type out that before 90s, how many of your parents used to invest in the stock market? The answer would be very few. If I just randomly do a poll, maybe 10% people would have done that. Now, if I'm asking that question in a seminar or webinar, then almost 40-50% might be doing it. But you'll say, I Google kara tha, only 3% people in India invest in stock markets. No, I'm talking to more people who are slightly more affluent. But one of the key reasons why stock market became a viable option for people was that it got easier to invest in stocks post 2010-12. When all these zero discount brokers came into the equation, there was more internet penetration, people started using smartphones. So to cut the long story short, the point I'm trying to drive home is that with time, with the use of technology, it is becoming easier to generate parallel income streams. You might be seeing that a lot of youngsters are getting into freelancing business. They do their job. On top of that, on weekends, they might be doing some freelancing work. Similarly, I live in Goa and I see a lot of youngsters or young couples buying homes and they rent it out on Airbnb and they are creating an additional income stream. What has made all this possible? Well, it's the advancement of technology, and this has happened really, really fast in the last 10 years. And in the next 10 years, this is only going to accelerate. So if you're not on that specialist path, become a parallel income stream person, own 3-4 income streams. That is the goal with which you should operate. There is a whole video that I had done on this topic. So in case you want, I have discussed specific ideas that you can go and execute. But very quick summary there, that if you are already in a full-time job, you could start your parallel income stream journey by taking on some consulting assignments. Now, what is the meaning of consulting assignment? Please go and check that video. Investing in real estate that gives you a cash flow again becomes a viable passive income option. So please go and explore it, understand yourself, sit with your partner, discuss that which passive income stream might be most useful for your family and start the story there. So this brings me to the next related point, which has to do with your life partner. All the points that I've spoken so far, passive income, active income, all that stuff only survives if you are finding the right type of partner for you. Now, I am not a marriage counselor. I don't know. I have no tips to share here, but I will give you some basic science behind it. See, there are two types of broad people in the world. So one could be called as utilitarians, and second, believe in the concept of hedonism, right? So I'll explain both these terms. Utilitarian means that wo har cheez mein utility dekhte hain. So this is like my characteristic that I would, if I have to buy a car, Mercedes kyun kharidni? I'll buy like a Tata Nexon, 5-star rating, this, that. So I bought a Tata Nexon. It's not as if that I could not afford a Mercedes. But for me, that's a utility thing, right? It will depend from item to item. For example, if I'm actually buying a house, then I would typically want to live in a very good house simply because my work from home hota hai, I have young kids at home, I spend most of my time at home. So there I have no problem in terms of spending money. But net, I will be a utilitarian person. So that is how I view life. The second, people who believe in another concept is called as hedonism. So hedonism means, you know what, life goal is what? Consumption. That khana khayenge to only avocado khayenge. I'm not attacking avocado eaters. I also love avocado, but that is not my go-to diet. But again, coming back to the basic point that hedonistic people, what they enjoy is that they really enjoy consuming luxurious things. Everything has to do with luxury. So if you're trying to pick a life partner, my only tip would be that, you know what, you really need to weigh the person on hedonism versus utilitarianism, and whether or not you are also typically aligned with that viewpoint or not. This becomes a very important point because I see a lot of my friends getting a little bit miffed because of the fact that, you know what, the husband or wife likes to spend money like crazy and the other person likes to save money. So, you know, thodi si problem ho jati hai, right? So just think from that perspective. Please understand what type of person you are and what type of a life partner you would want, because you can do everything. Income stream, active, passive, this, that, doing well in career. But if the personal life falls apart, it can lead to a lot of bad stuff. So the next point becomes that you must grow your wealth or whatever income you are making in excess of inflation. So that will lead to something called as wealth protection. People have very wrong notion. I discussed earlier in the video that people think that inflation in the economy is only 4.5-5%. So if I put my money in instrument X, I'm not even naming it, and on that, if I'm making, let's say 6% return, then ho gaya, right? I mean, I'm actually beating inflation. No, that is completely wrong. Earlier, I gave you an estimate that when you check food inflation prices, when you check education inflation, when you check health inflation, then the prices have gone up quite massively. So if you have to boil down that how do I figure out what the exact inflation is and what I need to do in order to protect my wealth? Important point that you need to understand is that you will have to take risk with your money, right? It's as simple as that. You cannot expect to beat inflation and actually protect your wealth without taking any risk. When you take risk, some things will go right, some things will go wrong. Therefore, you must understand how to construct a portfolio, what type of portfolio will work for you. So all these different things should be there. Where do you start your journey? Well, you start your journey by going to index funds, going to stocks, going to mutual funds. All these are basic things where you could start your journey. I'm not telling you that invest in this particular mutual fund or that particular mutual fund. You make a call. But the central point going forward is very simple, that if you don't grow your money in excess of real inflation, you are getting net poor. You can keep on working all entire life. It will not amount to much, unfortunately, if you're not protecting your wealth. This is a central point. Please understand it. So let's move on to the next point, which is that in order to build wealth, you must be in profitable niches. There are two examples I'll give here. One is a tweet from Mr. Kunal Shah. He says that only 180 public companies in India make more than 1,000 crores profit after tax. And out of these, almost 30% are in BFSI, which means banking, financial services, and insurance. Why? Because this is a profitable space. This has been a profitable space, and likely going forward, this will be a profitable space. And therefore, 40-50% of my portfolio is in these industries only. I keep on speaking about it. And again, you can check my portfolio here on this video where I've explained this point. Let me give you example number 2 of being present in profitable niche. For example, consider the story of Reliance. So when Reliance industry started, it was what type of a company? Textile, right? It was in that. Then it moved to what? Oil, right? So Reliance right now is also heavily oil dependent. Now where is it going? It is going into tech, right? Why is that? Because Reliance as a business empire, business group wants to be present in profitable niches. This is something that you should also do in your career. That for example, if you feel you're not IT industry ka ho gaya, right? I mean, IT industry, you're not going to make a lot of money. Then if you are from a tech background, then migrate to other areas of growth. So let me know in the comment box that how are you migrating in your career? That is a very important point. With that said, let me speak about the last point, that don't operate in this new world with a savings oriented mindset. Operate from an abundance oriented mindset. Now many of you would say, Akshat, aap to saving karte rehte ho. And now you're saying that don't operate from a savings oriented mindset. I'm not saying that become like a brainless person who just keeps on spending money like crazy on whatever. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to tell you is that you will not become rich by saving money, because if I give you a task that cut like 10,000 rupees from your overall expenses in a month, how much money will you be able to save, and what are the changes that you might have to make? So you will never get rich by making these type of sacrifices, at least now when the wealth is getting eroded faster than ever. So yes, you should save, you should have some spare discretionary income, convert that into investment, convert that into money, build passive income, all that stuff. But you can't become rich by saving money in today's world. What you need to operate with is the concept of abundance. Abundance means that everyone can get rich. It's not as if that only I can get rich. Build collaborations, build community, do constructive criticism. सामने मत पीछे पड़ जाओ किसी के, right? For example, a lot of people just simply keep tagging YouTubers के ने ये कर दिया, वो कर दिया, this that. Their entire empire is getting built by concept of criticism, because what you're doing is that you're simply cutting off relationships. So in this hyper competitive world, it is very important that you don't cut people off. You look for opportunities to collaborate, because when you operate with the concept of abundance, collaboration, there is a lot that you can achieve which you never thought that you could. I am personally seeing benefits of that, and it has helped me, and therefore I am sharing it with all my community. As a next step, it's important for you to understand that we are living in a world where there is something called as cost of living crisis. Everything is becoming expensive. So please watch this video. Why is that happening? And related to whatever I have taught you on this video, it will give you a very holistic perspective of how to build wealth in modern India. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.